The morning sun peeked through the thin curtains of a small old apartment where a young girl sat on the edge of her bed, staring at her worn-out shoes. The soles were almost gone, and she had patched the sides with glue more than once. Her name was Lena, and though she was only 17, her eyes carried a kind of sadness far beyond her age. Her mother was already up, moving quietly in the tiny kitchen. The sound of a kettle whistling filled the room, and the smell of tea made the place feel warmer than it really was. Their apartment was barely big enough for 2 people, but it was all they had. "Come have breakfast before it gets cold," her mother said softly. Lena smiled and joined her. On the table were 2 slices of bread, slightly burnt, and a little butter. Her mother had skipped her own share again, pretending she wasn't hungry. Lena noticed, but she didn't say anything. It had become normal by now. They talked about small things, school, neighbors, the weather, but both avoided mentioning what really worried them, the landlord's warning. They were 3 months behind on rent, and the notice slipped under their door 2 nights ago said they had 1 week left. Lena's mother tried to hide her fear behind a tired smile. She had been working at a bakery for almost 12 hours a day, and when she came home she still took on extra sewing work just to keep the lights on. But no matter how much she tried, it never seemed enough. Lena watched her mother's hands, rough and cracked from long hours of work, and her heart ached. She wanted to help, but what could she do? She was still in school, and her part-time job at a small store barely covered her bus fare. That evening, as Lena walked home from school, she passed by the community center. A large, colorful poster caught her eye. It read, "City Talent Show, win up to $5,000. Auditions this Saturday." She stopped and stared at it. $5,000. That was more than enough to pay the rent, buy food, maybe even fix the broken window in their kitchen. Her heart began to race. Lena had always loved singing. Ever since she was a little girl, music had been her way of escaping the noise of the world. When her mom was at work, she would hum quietly by the window or sing lullabies to herself before bed. Her voice was soft but full of emotion, something people rarely heard because she was too shy to sing in front of anyone. She stood there for a long time, thinking. She had never entered a contest before. She didn't have fancy clothes. She didn't know anyone in the music world, and she surely didn't believe she could win. But still, something inside her whispered, "Try." When she got home that night, she told her mother about it. "There's a singing contest this weekend," she said, trying to sound casual. "The prize money is huge. Maybe I can join." Her mother looked at her with surprise and worry. "Lena, these shows are for trained singers.
People spend years practicing for that."
Besides, we can't afford anything fancy to wear. I don't want you to be disappointed." "I don't care about that," Lena said softly. "I just want to try. Maybe if I do well, we can pay the rent." Her mother sighed deeply, knowing her daughter's heart. She didn't want to crush her spirit, but she was afraid of seeing her hurt. "All right," she finally said. "If you really want to do it, I'll be there to cheer for you." That night, while the city outside went quiet, Lena sat by the window with her phone in hand, looking for songs she could sing. She didn't have a piano or microphone, only her imagination and her voice. After hours of searching, she chose a song she had written herself a year ago, a song about missing someone she never met. She didn't know why she wrote it. All she knew was that there had always been a hole inside her heart, a feeling that something was missing. Whenever she asked her mother about her father, the answer was always the same. "He's gone, sweetheart. That's all you need to know." So Lena stopped asking. Over the next few days, she practiced whenever she could, after school, during lunch breaks, even in the stairwell of their building when her mother was working late. The neighbors sometimes heard her and smiled quietly, because her voice had something rare: honesty. Friday evening came too fast. She laid out her only decent dress, an old one her mom had mended many times. It wasn't elegant, but it was clean and neat. She brushed her hair carefully and hummed softly as she got ready for bed. Her heart was nervous but full of hope. Her mother peeked into her room. "You know, when you sing, it reminds me of when you were a baby." "You'd sing yourself to sleep," Lena laughed. "I must have been a noisy baby." "No," her mom said with a smile. "You were my little melody." The next morning, they woke up early. The talent show was being held in the city's community auditorium, a place Lena had only seen from the outside. When they arrived, the building looked enormous with bright banners and people rushing in and out. Contestants were practicing in corners, some wearing sparkling outfits, others holding instruments. Lena clutched her bag tightly, suddenly feeling out of place. She looked down at her simple dress and old shoes and felt her confidence slipping away. Her mother put an arm around her. "Don't compare yourself to them," she said. "Just sing with your heart. That's what matters." Inside the auditorium, Lena registered her name. The lady at the desk handed her a small badge with a number. 47. She pinned it to her dress with shaky hands. As they waited for her turn, they could hear the performances from backstage. Loud music, laughter, applause. Some people sang, others danced, a few even played instruments. Everyone seemed so confident. Lena's palms grew sweaty, and she could feel her heartbeat in her throat. Then she heard a voice near the stage. "Our next contestant, number 47. Her mother squeezed her hand. "Go, my love." Lena took a deep breath and stepped onto the stage. The lights were bright, almost blinding. For a second, she couldn't see the audience, only the microphone standing in front of her. She heard murmurs, whispers, the faint hum of the crowd settling down. In the front row sat the panel of judges, 3 people, including a tall man in a dark suit with calm, observant eyes. His name was Mr. Allen, a well-known music producer who had discovered several famous singers. He looked serious but kind. Lena didn't know him, nor did she realize how closely her life was connected to his. When the music started, her voice trembled on the first line. Her throat felt dry, and for a moment she wanted to run off the stage. But then, in the crowd, she saw her mother's face, tired but smiling, full of pride. Something inside her steadied. She took a breath and began again, this time letting go of her fear. Her voice rose softly, then stronger, filling the hall with warmth and sadness. She sang about love, loss, and hope, about a little girl waiting for someone who never came home. Her words were simple, but they carried emotion that no one could ignore. The room grew still. Even the judges leaned forward, listening closely. Some in the audience wiped their eyes. When the last note faded, there was silence, and then a wave of applause. People stood up, clapping and cheering for the shy girl who sang from her heart. Lena stood frozen, tears welling up in her eyes. She bowed awkwardly, then ran off the stage into her mother's arms. "You did it," her mother whispered, holding her tightly. "You were beautiful." "I thought I'd mess up," Lena said, her voice shaking. "You didn't," her mom said with tears. "You were perfect." As they hugged, Mr. Allen sat quietly at the judge's table, lost in thought. Something about that girl's song had struck him deeply. Her lyrics, her tone, even the way she looked. It all felt familiar. When he heard her last name announced, he frowned slightly, a strange feeling rising in his chest. Later that evening, when the show ended for the day, he asked one of the staff members for the contestant list. He wanted to know more about the girl who had moved the entire crowd with her song. Meanwhile, Lena and her mother walked home under the soft glow of streetlights. The night felt lighter, like the city itself was proud of her. She didn't know if she would win, but for the first time in a long while, she felt like maybe their luck was changing. Her mother reached over and squeezed her hand. "No matter what happens, I'm proud of you," Lena smiled. "I just hope we can pay the rent," her mother laughed softly. "Maybe one day we won't have to worry about that anymore." Neither of them knew that somewhere across town, a man was staring at a contestant form, realizing the name on it belonged to someone he once loved, and that the girl who sang on stage might be the daughter he never knew existed. Next morning, the sunlight came through the small window, and the tiny apartment felt unusually bright. Lena was still half asleep when her mother called her from the kitchen. "Wake up, sleepyhead. You have school today." Lena stretched her arms and smiled. Her voice was still a little tired from singing the night before, but her heart felt light. She had never heard people clap like that for her before. The cheers, the smiles, the standing ovation, they played over and over in her mind like a dream she didn't want to end. At breakfast, her mother kept looking at her with a quiet pride. "You were wonderful last night," she said while buttering a slice of bread. Lena blushed. "I don't know. Maybe people were just being nice." Her mother shook her head. "No, they felt your heart in that song. That's something not everyone can do." Lena smiled softly, but inside she wondered if the judges liked her performance too. Especially that one man, the serious-looking judge who had listened so closely. For a second, she remembered the way he looked at her after she finished singing. His expression wasn't just professional. It was almost emotional. She didn't know why, but his eyes had felt familiar. At school, her friends had already heard about the show. Some had seen her performance online because a local page had posted clips. "Lena, you're famous now," one of them joked. "You'll forget us when you win." She laughed, but her cheeks turned pink. "Stop it. I'm not even sure I'll make it to the finals." But when she opened her phone later, she saw hundreds of likes and kind comments under the video. People were saying things like, "That girl's voice made me cry," and "She deserves to win." For someone who had spent her whole life trying to stay invisible, it felt strange to be noticed. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Mr. Allen sat in his office, unable to stop thinking about the girl from the night before. He had judged hundreds of talent shows, seen countless hopeful faces, but none had ever shaken him like this. He kept replaying her song in his mind, the lyrics about a child searching for a missing father. It wasn't just the song, it was her eyes. Something in them reminded him of a woman he once loved deeply, many years ago. He opened his drawer and took out an old photograph, a picture of him with a young woman standing near a river. She was smiling, holding his arm. That smile, it was almost the same as the one he saw on stage. He whispered under his breath, "It can't be," but the thought wouldn't leave him. He called one of the event organizers. "Can you send me contestant number 47's details? I want to know more about her background," he said. The organizer hesitated. "Sir, is there any issue?" "No, nothing bad. I just see something special in her. I might want to mentor her later." Within minutes, he received her registration form. As he read through it, his heart began to pound. Her last name. It was the same as the woman from the photo. The address was from a poor neighborhood. He leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. Could she be my daughter? He whispered to himself. Years ago, he had been in love with a woman named Mira. They had planned a life together, but his family didn't approve of her because she came from a simple background. Then, due to a misunderstanding, she left without saying goodbye. He had searched for her for a while, but eventually life pulled him into fame, work, and other commitments. He never heard from her again. Now seeing Lena, her voice, her face, her last name, he felt the weight of the past return. That evening, as the sun began to set, Lena and her mother sat by the window. The small radio played softly while her mother sewed a torn dress. The room was quiet except for the sound of the needle and the humming of a fan. "Do you think I have a chance to win?" Lena asked suddenly. Her mother looked up. "You already won in my heart," she said with a grin. "I mean the prize money," Lena said, trying to hide her nervous laugh. "If I win, we can finally pay the rent and maybe fix the ceiling." Her mother's eyes softened. "You have more courage than I ever did. I'm proud of you for even trying." Lena smiled but noticed the tiredness in her mother's face, the small wrinkles, the faint circles under her eyes. She wished she could take that tiredness away. Later that night, while her mother slept, Lena sat awake, scrolling through her phone. She watched her performance again and again. Then she noticed a message in her inbox. It was from the event team. "Congratulations. You've been selected for the final round of the City Talent Show. Please be at the auditorium this Saturday." She gasped quietly, covering her mouth so she wouldn't wake her mother. Her heart raced as she read the message again to be sure. She couldn't believe it. Out of so many people, she was going to the finals. The next morning, she ran to the bakery where her mother worked and showed her the message. Her mother stopped kneading dough and stared at the phone screen, her eyes filling with tears. "Oh, my baby. You did it," she said, hugging her with flour-covered hands. Lena laughed and cried at the same time. The other workers clapped and cheered. For a brief moment, the bakery felt like a place of celebration instead of struggle. That whole week, Lena practiced harder than ever. She rehearsed every night, sometimes until midnight. Their old neighbors would hear her voice drifting through the walls, and some even came by to listen quietly from the hall. One old woman told her, "You sing like you mean every word, child. Don't ever lose that." Lena smiled shyly and said thank you. Deep inside, she was terrified. What if she messed up during the finals? What if she forgot the lyrics or her voice cracked? But her mother kept reminding her, "You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be real." Meanwhile, Mr. Allen couldn't stop thinking about the upcoming final round either. He had confirmed that Mira still lived in the same city. He had even driven by the address listed on Lena's form but couldn't bring himself to knock on the door. He told himself it was just curiosity. But the truth was he wanted to see her, both of them. He had spent years building a name, earning wealth, but there was always an emptiness inside him. Now he feared he might have found what was missing. Too late. When Saturday finally arrived, the city auditorium was decorated with bright lights and banners. The crowd was twice as big as before. Reporters were there and local TV channels were recording the event. Backstage, Lena could feel her knees shaking. Her mother stood beside her, holding her hands tightly. "No matter what happens," she whispered, "you've already made me the happiest mother in the world." Lena nodded, tears welling up. "I'll sing for you." When her number was called, she stepped out into the spotlight again. The music began, a soft piano tune, simple but powerful. She had chosen to sing another original song, one about never giving up even when the world forgets you. Her voice started gently, almost like a whisper, then grew stronger. Each note carried a story of love, struggle, and faith. The audience was silent, drawn in by her sincerity. Even the judges didn't take their eyes off her. Mr. Allen felt a lump in his throat. The song felt like a message meant for him, as if she was unknowingly speaking to the father she had never met. When she finished, the entire hall rose to its feet again. The applause went on for what felt like forever. Lena bowed deeply, her eyes full of tears. She didn't care if she won anymore. That moment was enough. Backstage, as she ran to her mother, Mr. Allen quietly stood up from his seat. He needed to talk to them, but when he reached the hallway, they were already gone. He looked around, frustrated, and then told one of the assistants, "Find out where contestant 47 lives. I need to see her and her mother. It's urgent." The assistant nodded, slightly confused, but did as told. That night, as Lena and her mother rode the bus home, they held hands and talked about the performance. "Do you think I did okay?" Lena asked. "You did more than okay," her mother said, smiling. "You reminded me of your father tonight." Lena looked at her surprised. Her mother rarely mentioned him. "You've never talked about him before," she said softly. Her mother's eyes grew distant. "He was someone I loved very much. But sometimes love doesn't stay, no matter how much you want it to." Lena didn't ask more. She could tell it was painful. But deep down, she wished she could know who he was. As the bus rattled through the quiet streets, none of them noticed the black car following them from a distance. Inside, Mr. Allen sat behind the wheel, watching carefully. He didn't want to scare them, but he needed to be sure. When Lena and her mother stepped into their building, he saw the address again. The same one from the registration form. His heart pounded. It was real. He sat there for a while, unsure what to do next. Then he whispered to himself, "Tomorrow, I'll tell them everything." He drove away slowly, unaware that his decision would change all their lives forever. Next morning was quiet. The streets outside were still wet from last night's rain, and the soft sound of water dripping from the rooftops filled the silence. Inside the small apartment, Lena sat by the window, holding the talent show flyer in her hands. Her fingers ran slowly across the faded print. The finals were over, but the results hadn't been announced yet. Her heart felt like it was floating somewhere between hope and fear. Her mother was in the kitchen, humming a tune as she poured tea into 2 chipped cups. Even after the long and tiring week, she seemed calmer than usual. "You sang beautifully," she said, walking over with a smile. "No matter what happens now, you made everyone proud. That's what matters." Lena nodded, though her thoughts were miles away. "Do you think they'll announce the results soon?" "Maybe today," her mother said softly. "Just don't stress about it. You already did your best," but Lena couldn't stop thinking about it. Every little sound made her turn toward her phone, hoping for a message from the organizers. Her mother noticed and chuckled. "You're worse than me waiting for the gas bill." They both laughed, and for a few minutes the worry faded away. Across the city, Mr. Allen sat in his office once again. But this time he wasn't working. The files on his desk lay untouched. His assistant knocked softly on the door. "Sir, the girl from the show? I found her address just like you asked." He looked up quickly. "Where is it?" The assistant handed him a small paper. "It's in the old part of the city. I think it's a residential building. Thank you, he said, taking the paper carefully. After the assistant left, he stared at the address for a long time. He had already been there once just to see if it was real. But now he wanted to go again, not as a stranger sitting in a car, but as someone ready to face the truth. By late afternoon, he finally gathered the courage. He put on a simple jacket and left his office quietly. No driver, no assistants, just him. The streets grew narrower as he drove, lined with small shops and children playing outside. He parked his car near a corner and walked the rest of the way. When he reached the old apartment building, he saw cracked walls and peeling paint. It wasn't a place for someone to raise a child comfortably. His heart sank. He climbed the narrow staircase and stopped in front of a wooden door with the number 12 painted on it. He raised his hand to knock, but stopped. He stood there for almost a minute, unsure what to say. How do you tell someone you left them without even knowing they existed? Finally, he took a deep breath and knocked softly. Inside, Lena and her mother looked at each other, surprised. They rarely had visitors. Her mother opened the door slightly, and when she saw who it was, her face froze. The color drained from her cheeks. He spoke first, his voice low. "Hello, Mira." For a moment, neither of them moved. The years between them felt heavy, like time had stopped. Lena, standing behind her mother, looked at the man curiously. He seemed familiar somehow, though she couldn't place where she had seen him. Her mother finally whispered, "What are you doing here?" "I saw the show," he said quietly. "I had to come. I didn't know about her." His eyes flicked toward Lena, who was still standing, confused. Her mother stepped out into the hall, closing the door behind her, leaving Lena inside. "You shouldn't be here," she said in a trembling voice. "I had no idea," he said again, almost pleading. "If I'd known you were pregnant back then, I would have—" She cut him off. "It doesn't matter anymore. That was a lifetime ago." "It matters to me," he said, his voice breaking. "You disappeared without a word. I thought you didn't want to see me again. I searched for you." Her eyes softened for a second, then hardened again. "You know how your family treated me. I couldn't raise a child in that world. I didn't want her to grow up being judged like I was." He took a step closer. "She deserves to know the truth." She shook her head. "The truth won't change anything. She has a good life. I've done everything I could to give her love. She doesn't need you showing up now." Inside the apartment, Lena pressed her ear to the door, trying to make sense of the conversation. She heard bits and pieces, and her name, something about the past, and her heart began to race. When her mother came back in, her face was pale. Lena asked quietly, "Who was that man?" Her mother hesitated, then forced a smile. "No one important, sweetheart, just someone from long ago." But Lena wasn't convinced. "He looked like the judge from the show," she said softly. "Why did he come here?" Her mother turned away, pretending to tidy the table. "You're imagining things. Now come eat something. You've been waiting all day." Lena nodded slowly, but her thoughts were spinning. Later that night, as the city grew quiet, Lena lay awake, staring at the ceiling. That man's face kept flashing in her mind. The same serious eyes, the same gentle look he'd given her after her song. She didn't know why, but something about him felt connected. The next morning, she went out early for a walk, needing to clear her head. The sky was cloudy, and a light wind brushed against her hair. She stopped by a small park near their building and sat on a bench. Suddenly, she noticed a familiar car parked nearby. Mr. Allen stepped out and saw her. He froze for a second, unsure how to approach. Lena stood up, recognizing him immediately. "You're one of the judges," she said politely. He nodded, smiling gently. "Yes, you were amazing on stage, truly. Thank you," she said shyly. "It was my first time performing. I wouldn't have guessed that," he said. "You sang like someone who's lived every word of her song." She smiled faintly. "Maybe I did." He hesitated for a moment, then asked, "Do you mind if I sit?" She nodded, and they both sat on the bench. There was a long silence before he spoke again. "Your song? It was about a father, wasn't it?" Lena looked down. "Yes, I wrote it a while ago. I don't really remember him, though. My mom never talks about him." He swallowed hard, his chest tightening. "Do you ever wonder who he is?" She nodded slowly. "Sometimes. I used to imagine he was someone kind, maybe a musician like me. But then I stopped thinking about it. My mom says some people are just not meant to stay." His eyes glistened. "I'm sure he'd be proud of you wherever he is." She smiled sadly. I hope so. Before he could say anything more, her mother appeared at the edge of the park, walking quickly toward them. Her face showed panic. Lena! She called out. Lena stood up. Mom, this is one of the judges from the show. He was just talking to me. Her mother forced a polite smile. Thank you for your kindness, sir, but we really have to go. She gently took Lena's arm. Mr. Allen looked at her with quiet desperation. Please, Mira, we can't keep pretending. She deserves to know who I am. Lena froze. What do you mean? She asked, looking between them. Her mother's eyes filled with tears. Not here, she whispered. Please. Lena's heart started pounding. Mom, tell me. What is he talking about? Her mother turned to her slowly. He's your father. The world seemed to stop. Lena stood still, unable to speak. Her eyes widened as the truth sank in. My father? She whispered. Mr. Allen stepped forward. I didn't know, Lena. I swear I didn't. I only found out after hearing you sing. The moment I saw you, I felt something I couldn't explain. Lena stared at him, speechless. 1,000 thoughts crashed inside her mind. The years of wondering, the stories her mother never told, the empty space in her life she had learned to accept. Her mother wiped her tears. I wanted to protect you. I didn't want his world to hurt you like it hurt me. Lena turned away, tears filling her eyes. So all this time, I had a father and you both said nothing? Her mother tried to reach for her hand, but Lena pulled back gently. I just need some time, she said softly. Without another word, she walked away, her steps slow and heavy. Mr. Allen and her mother stood silently, watching her disappear down the street. That evening, Lena sat by the river near the old bridge. The water moved quietly beneath her, reflecting the orange glow of sunset. Her thoughts were tangled. Anger, confusion, sadness, and something else she couldn't name. After a while, she heard footsteps. It was Mr. Allen. He didn't come too close, just stood beside her quietly. I don't expect you to forgive me, he said softly. But please believe me when I say I didn't abandon you. I never knew. Lena wiped her eyes. You don't have to say anything, I just don't know what to feel right now. He nodded slowly. That's okay. Take your time. I'll be here no matter what. They sat in silence for a long time, listening to the water. For the first time in her life, Lena didn't feel completely alone, but she wasn't ready to call him father either. As the sky grew darker, her mother appeared again, holding Lena's coat. She walked over and placed it on her daughter's shoulders without saying a word. The three of them stood there quietly, the air thick with things unsaid. Somewhere deep inside, Lena knew her life had changed forever. And even though she didn't yet know what the future would bring, a small part of her heart whispered that maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something new. Days that followed were tense and quiet. Lena had returned to her normal life, but nothing felt normal anymore. She still went to school, still helped her mother with chores, and still practiced singing when she could, but inside, a storm raged. She kept replaying the moment her mother had told her the truth. Her father was real. He had existed all this time, and she had never known. A part of her wanted to run to him, to ask every question she had ever kept inside. But another part of her was afraid of being rejected, afraid of what it might mean for her life and the life she shared with her mother. At school, her friends noticed a change in her. She smiled less often, sometimes stared off into the distance, and often hummed songs with a strange bittersweet tone. One of her classmates finally asked, Lena, are you okay? You seem different. I'm fine, she said softly, brushing it off. But inside, she knew she wasn't fine. Her mother watched her closely at home. She wanted to talk, to comfort her, but she was unsure how. She didn't want to push Lena, didn't want to force anything. All she could do was be there, silently supporting her daughter in every small way she could. One afternoon, as Lena returned from school, she found a small envelope slipped under the apartment door. It was simple. No return address, just her name written neatly on the front. She opened it carefully, her hands trembling slightly. Inside was a note. Meet me at the auditorium tomorrow at 3. I need to explain everything. Please trust me. Her heart raced. She knew who it was from. Her mother tried to hide her worry, but Lena could see the fear in her eyes. Mom, it's him, she said quietly. Her mother nodded, biting her lip. I know, if you want to go, I'll support you. But promise me, be careful. Take your time. Don't feel pressured. Lena swallowed hard. I need answers. I can't keep wondering anymore. The next day she arrived at the auditorium early. The building looked different in daylight, quieter and more familiar after the recent talent show. She walked slowly to the stage, feeling the weight of anticipation pressing on her chest. Her father was already there, pacing near the edge of the stage. When he saw her, he froze. His face softened, a mixture of relief and fear washing over him. Lena, he said, his voice low, almost trembling. She looked at him carefully, measuring every word. I came. You said you wanted to explain everything. He nodded and gestured for her to sit on one of the chairs set near the stage. I owe you the truth. And I owe your mother the truth, too. I didn't know you existed. Mira told me nothing. I searched for her back then, but I never found anything. And now, here you are. Lena stayed quiet, letting him speak even though her mind was spinning with questions. I never stopped thinking about her. He continued. And now seeing you, hearing your song. It felt like a piece of my life I had lost had come back. She shifted in her seat, trying to control the whirlwind of emotions inside her. Why didn't you try harder? Why didn't you find her sooner? His eyes dropped. I did everything I could at the time. My family, my life. I was young, foolish. I thought I'd lost her forever. I never imagined she had a child. And now you just show up? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. After all these years? I couldn't live with myself if I didn't try, he said honestly. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness yet, but I need you to know that I want to be in your life, if you let me. Lena swallowed hard. She had imagined this moment so many times, but reality was more complicated than any daydream. The pain of years lost, the curiosity, the anger, and the faint spark of hope. It all collided inside her. I don't know if I can trust you yet, she whispered. I understand, he said softly. Take all the time you need. I'll wait. I just want a chance. A chance to be your father in whatever way you allow me. Her mother stepped closer, her eyes glistening. Lena, he means it. He's serious, but it's your choice. Don't let me influence you. This is about you. Lena nodded, biting her lip. The room felt heavy with emotion. After a long silence, she finally spoke. I need to see more of who you are. Not just words. I need to know that you'll stay, not just leave like before. I will, he said firmly. I promise. No matter what, I will not leave. I will prove it to you every day if I have to. For the first time in years, Lena felt a small weight lift from her chest. It wasn't gone completely, but it was a start. Over the next few weeks, they began spending small amounts of time together. Her father took her to a quiet cafe one afternoon, just the two of them, where they talked about music, school, and even silly childhood stories he didn't know about her. He didn't rush her, didn't demand anything. He simply showed up, listened, and shared little parts of his own life. Lena began to see a side of him that was human, flawed yet sincere. Her mother watched from the sidelines, giving them space but always nearby. She could see the changes in Lena. Slowly, the tension in her daughter's shoulders began to ease. She saw smiles that had been missing for too long. Then came the talent show finale. Lena had been selected as a finalist, and this time, she was ready to perform with confidence, not fear. Her father would be in the audience. She didn't know how he would react, but she knew she wanted to sing for him, not just the judges, not just the crowd, but for the man who was finally starting to become her father. When she stepped onto the stage, the lights brightened, the crowd hushed, and she felt the familiar tremor of nerves. But she spotted her mother and father in the front row. Their eyes were locked on her, full of encouragement and anticipation. She took a deep breath and began. Her voice, clear and strong, carried the song she had written about hope, forgiveness, and family reunited. Every note was filled with honesty and emotion, and the audience could feel it. By the time she reached the last verse, she was singing directly to the man who had once been absent from her life. Her words were simple but filled with meaning, about longing, about dreams, about the courage to forgive and love. The crowd erupted into applause when she finished. She looked up at her father. His eyes were glistening with tears, a wide smile spreading across his face. He gave her a small nod, and she knew. He was proud. Backstage, as she ran into her mother's arms, Mr. Allen followed quietly. He didn't speak at first, just watched the two of them. Then he knelt down to Lena's level. "You were incredible," he whispered. I don't know how I can explain this, but your song, it reached my heart. I've never felt so connected to anyone before." Lena looked at him carefully. Does that mean I can call you my father?" He smiled softly, a mix of happiness and relief. "If you're ready," he said. Her mother smiled and stepped back. "It's your choice, Lena, but I think he's shown he's worth it." For the first time, Lena felt the strange emptiness inside her chest begin to fill. She didn't have all the answers yet, and the future was still uncertain. But for the first time, she felt hope. That night, as they walked home together, the city lights reflecting on the wet pavement, Lena held her mother's hand and glanced at her father. He walked beside her quietly, giving her space but never leaving her side. "I'm still scared," Lena admitted softly. "I know," he said, "and that's okay. We'll take it one day at a time. I think I want you in my life," she said slowly. He smiled and nodded. "I'm here. I'll always be here." Her mother looked at the two of them, tears in her eyes. "You've both grown so much in just a few weeks," she whispered. "I'm proud of you, Lena, and I'm glad he's finally here." They walked together in silence for a while, the only sound being the soft hum of the city around them. Lena felt a warmth she hadn't felt in years. For the first time, she believed that family wasn't just about living under the same roof. It was about being there for each other, through struggles, through mistakes, and through love. That night, back in her small apartment, Lena sat by her window and began writing a new song. This one was different. It wasn't about longing or loneliness. It was about hope, forgiveness, and new beginnings. Her mother hummed softly beside her, and her father sat quietly in the corner, listening, offering advice and encouragement. For the first time, the little apartment felt like a real home, full of laughter, warmth, and the beginnings of a family reunited. And as Lena strummed her guitar, her voice flowing freely, she knew that no matter what happened in the future, she had finally found her place, not just in the world, but in the hearts of the people who mattered most. Absolutely. Here is HOA Part 5. The final part of your story. Broke girl sings at talent show to help her mom, not knowing the judge is her rich father. Written in a simple, natural, and emotional English, around 1,600 words, human-centered, engaging, and YouTube-friendly. The morning of the talent show finale arrived, and Lena felt a strange mix of excitement and nerves. This was it. The day she would find out if all her hard work and courage would finally pay off. She dressed carefully in the patched-up dress she had worn before, now neatly ironed. Her mother helped her fix her hair, brushing it gently while humming a soft tune. "You're going to be amazing today," her mother said, her eyes shining with pride. "No matter what happens, I'm proud of you." Lena nodded, swallowing hard. "I just hope I can do my best and not let anyone down." Her mother smiled, squeezing her hand. "The only person you need to impress is yourself. And you've already done that." When they arrived at the auditorium, it was buzzing with excitement. The stage was decorated with sparkling lights and colorful banners. Contestants from all over the city were preparing backstage, adjusting costumes, tuning instruments, and whispering words of encouragement to each other. Lena's heart raced as she looked around, taking in the atmosphere. Her father was already there, standing quietly near the judges' table. When he saw her, he gave a small nod and a reassuring smile. It was the first time she had seen him in that kind of setting. Not as a stranger, not as a man from her past, but as someone who was slowly becoming part of her life. Lena took a deep breath and followed the stage manager's instructions. One by one, contestants performed, each trying to impress the judges with skill, style, and flair. Some were professional, some were daring, but Lena knew that tonight it wasn't about competing with them. It was about expressing herself, about singing her heart, and about proving to herself that she could overcome everything that had come before. When her name was called, she stepped onto the stage. The bright lights made it hard to see the audience clearly, but she could feel their presence. She could hear whispers, camera clicks, and the faint hum of anticipation. She gripped the microphone tightly, her palms slightly sweaty, and then she remembered her mother's words, "Sing from your heart." Closing her eyes for a moment, she began. Her voice started soft, trembling slightly, but as she found the melody, it grew stronger. Every note carried emotion, every word carried meaning. She sang about hope, about love, about family, and about the courage to face the past and embrace the future. When she looked up, she saw her father watching intently. His eyes were glistening, and for the first time Lena felt truly seen. Not as a girl struggling in a small apartment, not as a contestant in a talent show, but as his daughter, someone he had longed to know for years. Her mother watched from the back of the stage, tears streaming down her face. She had always known Lena had talent, but now, watching her daughter perform with such confidence and emotion, she felt a mix of relief and pride. The final note lingered in the air. For a heartbeat there was silence. Then the audience erupted into applause. People stood clapping and cheering, some even whistling. Lena bowed deeply, overwhelmed by the moment, and ran backstage into her mother's arms. "You were amazing," her mother said, holding her tightly. "I've never been prouder of you in my life." Lena laughed and cried at the same time. "I couldn't have done it without you." Her father stepped forward, his hands shaking slightly. "You were incredible, Lena. I don't think I've ever heard anything so beautiful in my life. I'm so proud of you." She looked at him, searching his eyes. "Really?" "Yes," he said softly, "I am. And I want you to know something. I've missed so many years with you, but I promise I'll never miss another day." For a moment, time seemed to stop. Lena felt a warmth spread through her chest that she had never felt before. The emptiness of years spent wondering about her father began to fade, replaced by hope and a sense of belonging. Later, the judges gathered to announce the results. Lena held her mother's hand tightly, her stomach fluttering with nervous energy. The announcer's voice boomed through the auditorium, calling out names and winners. Each name brought cheers, applause, and gasps from the audience. Finally, the announcer said, "And the winner of this year's City Talent Show, with a performance that touched every heart in this room. Contestant number 47, Lena." The crowd erupted into applause again, louder and more joyful than before. Lena's eyes filled with tears as she walked back onto the stage to accept the prize. The check was enormous, enough to pay off months of rent, fix their apartment, and give her mother some breathing room. As she held the check, she looked at her mother, who was beaming with pride. She looked at her father, who was standing beside the judges, clapping with genuine joy. And in that moment she realized that the prize was more than money. It was the beginning of a new life, a life where her family could finally be whole. After the show, her father approached her quietly. "Can we go somewhere and talk?" he asked. Lena nodded, and they walked to a small cafe nearby. Her mother followed, giving them space but staying close. "I want you to know that I'm serious about being in your life," he said. "I know I can't make up for the years I missed, but I want to try. I want to be your father, and I want to support you in everything you do." Lena listened carefully. She had spent years dreaming about this moment, wondering if her father would ever care, if he would ever be real. Now that he was here, she felt a mixture of emotions: joy, fear, and cautious hope. "I don't know how to feel yet," she admitted. "I'm happy you're here, but I'm also scared. What if things don't work out?" He reached across the table and held her hand gently. "Then we take it one day at a time. I'm not going anywhere, Lena, I promise. No matter what happens, I will stay." Her mother watched them silently, a soft smile on her face. She felt a sense of relief and gratitude. After all the struggles, after all the years of uncertainty, it seemed like the universe had given them a second chance. Over the next few weeks, their lives began to change. With the prize money, they fixed the apartment, bought new clothes, and even took a short trip together, something they had never been able to afford before. But more importantly, they began building a relationship that was based on love, trust, and honesty. Lena spent more time with her father, learning about his life, his experiences, and even his love for music. They shared long talks, quiet walks, and hours spent practicing songs together. She realized that he wasn't perfect, but he was genuine, and that was enough. Her mother, too, found peace. She had worried for years about raising Lena alone, about protecting her from disappointment and heartbreak. Now she could finally let go of some of that burden. She watched them laugh, sing, and support each other, and she knew that everything she had endured had led to this moment. One evening, Lena sat at the small piano in their apartment, composing a new song. Her father and mother sat nearby, listening as she played. The notes filled the room with warmth and hope. "This is your best one yet," her father said softly, smiling. "I think it's about us," Lena said, her fingers lingering on the keys. "About family and second chances." Her mother reached over and touched her hand. "And about love, Lena. Never forget that." The following months were filled with small joys and milestones. Lena performed at local events, gaining recognition not just for her talent, but for the story of courage and love that surrounded her. Her father supported her in every way, attending her performances, helping her practice, and encouraging her to dream bigger. The once struggling apartment became a home filled with laughter, music, and warmth. The tiny kitchen that had smelled of burnt bread now smelled of fresh-baked cookies. The living room, once sparse, now held pictures of family moments, capturing smiles and laughter. And through it all, Lena learned that life was not about perfection or wealth. It was about love, connection, and the courage to face the past and embrace the future. One quiet evening, Lena and her father sat together on the balcony, looking at the city lights. She leaned her head on his shoulder and whispered, "I'm glad you're here." He held her close, his heart full. "So am I, Lena. So am I." Her mother joined them, and the three of them sat together in silence, enjoying the simple beauty of the moment. No words were needed. They had each other, and that was enough. Lena knew that life would still have challenges, but she also knew that they could face anything together. Her voice, once a small whisper in a cramped apartment, now carried hope and love into the world. Her family, once fractured by absence and misunderstanding, was whole. And as she looked at her mother and father, she realized that sometimes the greatest victories in life weren't measured in money or fame.